We had to conduct clever research when considering how we could design our digipack, an album poster for our own artist Gigi, and I specifically explored the pop genre, looking at only female artists, as we already made our song choice and knew what type of artist that we were trying to create, so I made sure my research was relevant. I looked at Lana Del Rey's Born to Die, Melanie Martinez's Cry Baby, Taylor Swift's 1989, and Marina and the Diamonds' Electra Heart. One convention that was evident in all the digipacks was that all of the albums had an image of the artist on the front cover, but only 1989 had an image of the artist on the back cover, but this could make up for the fact that only half of Taylor's face was actually visible on the front, because the image was a mid-shot and was cut off before her eyes, which gave her new branding a sense of mystery, and was a quirky alternative to a conventional image for the cover. In other cases, Lana was photographed as a full mid-shot and she looks directly into the camera, which draws the audience's attention towards her and also gives her a dominant look. And Marina's face also takes up like a large proportion of the front cover as she's photographed as a close-up, which once again makes us focus on her on the cover and gives her dominance and power, whereas Melanie on the other hand is, although central on the album cover, she's small and only her head and shoulders are shown, and she's looking away from the camera, which makes her look innocent and naive. In our own final digipack, we didn't necessarily take inspiration from the photos used in the albums we researched, and in the end came to the conclusion that our favourite shot of Gigi was when she was looking away from the camera and facing slightly to the side, and we placed this on the left of our digipack cover, as we felt it looked more visually appealing according to the rule of thirds. All the albums followed a specific colour scheme and that intertwined with the artist's branding and style, so like Lana Del Rey, she's wearing a sheer white shirt and you can see her red bra underneath. And this colour scheme is followed through with the text on the cover, with Lana's name being in white and the album title being in a pale red. And that colour scheme is also continued on the inside because the disc is white with red roses around it, and the back cover is also white but uses blue font that matches the shade of the sky on the front cover, which links the entire digipack together, making it consistent and aesthetically pleasing. Marina and the Diamonds has a consistent use of the same font, but the colour scheme isn't as collaborative as Born to Die, because her digipack focuses more on her individual branding because of the character she's trying to portray, and the close-up is used to emphasise the unique branding and the persona of Electra Heart, and that framing makes all the mise-en-scene stand out, like the heart on her cheek and her hairstyle and just her overall look. Melanie Martinez's Cry Baby has a more cartoon and childish design, which features drawings of houses flooding, balloons and a pink sky on the front, and the back cover track list is spelled out with fridge magnets, which goes along with her brand image, which is predominantly shown in her styling, which it often mimics an infant. And the colour scheme is colourful but not very vibrant and has more pastel tones throughout the digipack. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift uses consistent stylistic features on her 1989 album, using Polaroid images and handwritten font which convey the personal element of the album and allows her to connect with her fan base. All the digipacks maintained particular fonts and colour schemes which allowed them all to flow and show the consistent branding, but the discs often varied with how they linked with the rest of the digipack. None of these include an image of the artist, but rather images that related to the artist's branding or the rest of the digipack, like we did with our own, with the sparkler. There was also all the necessary copyright information on the back cover and a record label logo, which we must include as it's conventional. And all the inside booklets, however, did include an image of the artist except for Melanie's, which was just a cartoon drawing. And those were images from photo shoots, which were all styled similarly to the front image. Another element we looked at that was important for the ancillary products was the album posters that went along with the album releases, and whether there was significant consistency that we could reflect in our own work. Lana's Born to Die poster had an image of Lana that was taken directly from the same photo shoot, except her pose was different and it was more zoomed out, and she was also smiling, which would be more appealing to an audience that didn't already know her. And there was also consistency between fonts and colours once again. Whereas Melanie, on the other hand, wasn't on the poster and it had barely any resemblance or similarity to the album. which is a limitation of that branding, as it doesn't really present her image to a wider public or make her recognisable to an outside audience. But the poster does include cartoon images which do correlate with the album and Melanie's branding. But once again, the fonts do not match at all. Similarly, Taylor Swift's album poster didn't have really any correlation to the design of the album digipack, had a completely different colour scheme, and font selection had a completely new image of Taylor central on the poster. In relation to the album cover, the branding doesn't match, and therefore didn't create a strong distinguishable brand identity for Taylor's new album. And on Marina's poster, the colour scheme is different compared to the album, with it being brown and beige instead of the cooler blue tones of the album. And the image is also different, but Marina is still dressed as the persona of Electra Heart, and the font is the same, and this allows the poster to stand alone as a unique design while still being identifiable as part of her branding, which is a choice that we could consider. From what we identified in our research, we were able, as a group, to pick and choose the particular elements and styles that we wanted to include on our own for GG, and we decided to stick to a more simplistic design that followed through with both media texts of the digipack and the poster. And we chose a black background as we felt that it was a really easy canvas to work on and it would look more professional, because we were going to use the spotlight pictures that we could easily edit on top of a black background.
So I looked into 4 female pop alternative artists, beginning with Katy Perry's Teenage Dream. So she uses like bright colours, like coupled with a unique font appearing like almost like childlike to appeal to sort of like her young, predominantly female audience. She also heavily references to her song California Girls, which is one of her most popular songs and music videos on the album. She continued her same styling and setting as seen as the music video, with the brightly coloured wigs, clouds and like sweets. We applied this technique to our own digipack. As said before, we used the photograph taken at our drama studio location, featuring like the spotlights, as this is where the majority of our footage was filmed, so it's the most recognisable element of our video and would be the one that the audience would recognise. Oh yeah, so we used the same photograph across the front cover and the promotional poster, and it was like very similarly styled from the front to the back cover as well. And this was a common approach to take and used by Ariana Grande's album My Everything. And then on this as well, there's also a reference to her music video Problem, as seen on like the stripe pattern over her face on the CD that's seen in the video. So this convention of like clear synergy makes effective marketing, as it boosts the recognisability of all media products as they share like one key feature. Some digipacks didn't really show much correlation, however, they do have clear references to their music videos and like sort of general branding of themselves. This is shown in Lady Gaga's digipack for Art Pop. She was inspired by like a sculpture that had influenced her to a unique photograph for digipack. So the pose and the looks she chose fits right in with her eccentric sort of branding image, and also mimics some of the looks seen in her video for Applause. This is a technique we chose for the design of our CD by featuring a sparkler on the front, so referencing our music video but not directly having our artists on every element of our ancillary to make her appear more sort of like down to earth. Ariana Grande's My Everything also achieves this through her like handwritten style font of her album name, which is something we decided also, so it makes our artist like appear more personal. Finally, Amy Winehouse's Back to Black uses more of a rustic and like edgy photograph for the front cover, being on like in front of a blackboard. With this still having symbolism to the sentiment of the album, being called Back to Black, this explores Amy's branding rather than being a direct reference to another one of her media pieces. As our artist and her branding was such a key feature whilst creating our music video, fitting with the performance style, we wanted to also expand further on Gigi's presentation. So we decided to explore her urban brand image of being a Londoner, and so that's why we went to Brick Lane in East London to take photographs for the inside cover. So Brick Lane's notorious for its like edgy style of like graffitied walls, which is the setting for our photography, and is also known for being home to individuals sharing the same like alternative styles that we wanted for our artists. So we thought it would be like a good location to like promote gigs and live events. It's like a hub for nightlife. So this is a convention for promotion when it comes down to an artist, as it's like boosting the marketing of like live events, and it's an important thing to consider with the release of an album.
So when I was analysing digipacks, I explored the pop genre, specifically that of female electro-pop and dream pop artists. This research involved looking at Lana Del Rey's Ultraviolence, Marina and the Diamonds' Electra Heart, Halsey's Badlands, Tove Lo's Queen of the Clouds, and Sky Fiera's self-titled album. The latter three were of the most significance to my research, as they were all debut albums, like the one that we would produce. So one obvious convention seen in all five was that of having the artist on the front cover, as well as on the back cases in Ultraviolence and Queen of the Clouds. In these cases, the images were from the same photo shoot, so we thought that this was something that we should probably try and replicate. All of them except Badlands also had the artist looking directly at the camera, so there seemed to be another convention of female pop artist digipack covers. Queen of the Clouds and Ultraviolence both used black and white images of the artist, but using colour still appeared to be the more conventional choice, but judging by my research. The styling appeared to be of significance in terms of creating a representation of the artist, particularly in the case of Electra Heart. Each of the album covers included the album title on the front cover, except for Sky Fiera's album, implying that hers was the most unconventional of the ones that I researched. Ultraviolence and Sky Fiera were also the only albums not to include the artist's name on the front, although this seems more fitting for Ultraviolence because Lana Del Rey was already an established artist, whereas this was Sky Fiera's debut album. The unconventional nature of the digipack could be explained by Sky Fiera choosing to use a controversial naked picture of herself on the front cover, making that the focal point over other typical features. Like, one thing all the digipacks did was maintain particular fonts and colour schemes on the front and back covers. For example, Queen of the Clouds featured a blue, pink and black colour scheme, and the back covers all included track listings as well, which was generally aligned either to the left or was centred. The discs varied across all of the digipacks, with Sky Fiera using the same image of herself naked on the disc as well, and Tove Lo using an image of a person who might have been herself, who was edited to have the head exploded. The other three used plain colours or patterns, but all except Sky Fiera's included the album and artist names. Sky Fiera didn't have her name anywhere. The necessary copyright information was included in all five discs. This was usually on the back cover and was accompanied by the record label logo. The album booklets also varied quite a lot, but all of them included images of the artist and either complemented or continued the colour scheme that they had on the front and back covers. Images from photo shoots with the artist styled in similar ways to the front cover were the most popular, particularly in Badlands. Instead of using the same photo shoot pictures, they used images from Halsey's music videos that had already been released prior to her releasing the album, which created some synergy between the products. Photo branding for the albums in album and tour posters also related to the digipack in some way, either with the font of the images, which were either the same or from a similar photo shoot. For example, Lana Del Rey's album poster for Ultraviolence was just the same picture with "Out Now." Halsey's tour poster used a similar image to the one that is seen on the front cover, and it was obviously taken from the same photo shoot, just a slightly different angle. Ringing the Diamonds one it related the least to her actual digipack. So overall, to conform to convention, we included our artist Gigi on the front and the back cover, but Gigi isn't looking directly at the camera in either of the pictures, so we challenged the convention there because the only other person who did that was Halsey. The images are from the same photo shoot though, which was what Ultraviolence and Queen of the Clouds did, so that was relatively conventional. So other conventions that we followed were having both our artist and album name included on the front cover, and having a consistent colour scheme, which was black and red, as well as consistent fonts. We used the handwriting kind of font. We also put the appropriate copyright information on the back cover and the disc, and we also had the record label logo. Yeah, the disc was actually quite unconventional in that it didn't include the album's title, but it did include Gigi's name with a little XO because we wanted it to look personal. This links to Gigi's unique selling point of relatability. We were inspired by Halsey's use of the image from a music video in her album booklet, so we used an image of a sparkler on the disc, which we obviously did in the Homemade Dynamite music video. Unlike the album booklets I researched, ours didn't include similar images to the front cover because we used images that we took at Brick Lane instead, but we used a fairly consistent colour scheme, and there was some correlation because Gigi is pictured outside. Yeah, we decided to use the album booklet to explore the other part of Gigi's brand identity, which was her urban roots, because she's meant to be a Londoner, so we did that photo shoot in Brick Lane. And her styling kind of relates to what she was wearing in the music video in the sparkler scenes. She's got the casual clothing and the jacket and stuff. To not use pictures that were from the same photo shoot or something like that was quite an unconventional choice for us, but I think that we justified it quite well. We did decide to follow conventions when creating our album's promotional poster by using the same image as that was on the actual front cover, and the same fonts and colour scheme as was on the digipack. As we felt it was important to advertise Gigi as much as possible, we included a website address and her Twitter and Instagram handles on the poster, much like what Marina and the Diamonds did.
Overall, we felt that we successfully used and developed conventions of typical pop music videos, and that in turn reflected those of the real media products that we researched.
We researched a range of artists, so we had a broad perspective for inspiration in our own video, and this meant we were using conventions that were dominant and recognisable in the genre.
Overall, I think this research helped considerably with our understanding of conventions of digipacks, and this really impacted the professional outcome of our video and ancillary task and its success at appealing to our target audience.